The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za. And by BlackBerry. Love doing business on your BlackBerry smartphone at blackberry.co.za. Hello and welcome to episode number 196 of the ZA Tech Show. My name is Simon Dingle. This was recorded on January the 27th of 2012. I think. Brett is our official date keeper.
Simon's 30th. Monday the 30th of January.
You can see that Simon is not somebody who
I threw in a little something there just for Brett.
Just for me.
Because of course it's possible
Can
to
I go
remember
now? I've contributed
that
to
it's
the
the
show.
end
I
of the
can
driest month of the year. All right. Hello, funny guys. Let me introduce the panel to you. Funny guy number one, Brett Haggard from Hypertext Media Communications.
Ave, Simon.
Hello. Our official timekeeper.
Indeed.
Datekeeper.
Datekeeper and timekeeper.
Etcher of the tablets.
Indeed.
Upon which we...
Well, more toucher of the
tabulate
tablets.
date.
But
God, you can see it's been a
anyway.
long day. Samantha Beck-Bessinger is here, the lovely Sam from Quirk.
Hello, Mr. Dingle.
How are you doing?
Pretty good.
That's good. Good is good.
Yeah.
Ben's here. Ben Kelly.
I'm just here to make up the numbers.
From all over the place. It's true, Ben. It's true. You said it.
They even have my replacement sitting in the corner.
And by make up the numbers, Ben doesn't mean like flesh out the team. He means he's actually going to make up some stats tonight. He's just going to invent them on the fly.
And there will be a spot prize.
Leave Ben alone.
Or not.
Chief Bottle Washer at ungeek.co.za.
Hello, everyone.
Where he commands legions of geeks at typewriters.
That's why they don't post all that often. It's because they're actually still
Really
using
quiet about it.
typewriters.
Like, I'm talking about my
That
organization.
is a
Very
rad.
hard to get.
I will switch to silence now. All right. Okay, so, yeah, there's been lots of boring news this week. Not too much interesting. Except for, I suppose, the most interesting thing that happened this week, besides for 22.7, which we'll get to in a moment, is the launch of Nokia's Lumia 800 in South Africa.
And the 710.
And the 710. Now, of course, you watch the ZA Tech Show, so you know all about the stuff already, because, you know, we know all about the stuff long before anyone else, and then we talk about it.
But in case you were stuck under something heavy and missed that episode,
Yeah, in case
the 710 and
There's
800 are
several
now here.
episodes.
Yes. We got a little launch in South Africa. It wasn't so small, but compared to what happened in London, it was minuscule. Did you
Yes,
see the video?
Of Dead
Let me
Mouse
go and find it.
making magical awesomeness on a building.
Well, it was less about Dead Mouse and more about them projecting on... well, they weren't projecting. Fitting an entire building out with
Yes.
panels.
Dude.
Yeah, I must find the video. Carry on
It was
talking.
crazy. No, look, it was pretty rad. Because they obviously unveiled them at Nokia World, and everybody went ooh and ah, and it was really impressive and stuff. And then
Yeah.
they released some tentative dates in terms of when the products were going to be available.
Yes.
Obviously available in the European market before the US, and then there was Dead Mouse and this gigantic building with extremely rad panels that so he was playing the music and then this awesome effect on this gigantic building behind him.
Sorry, if you're listening to the audio version, you can't see the video. You're just hearing it in the background. But try and pretend you're looking at
Yeah.
something really rad.
So there's lots of there's like yellow bands and green bands and like
So-
blue cyan bands. It's
What
awesome.
they
So I
should
sh-
have done was something that I saw on a video about a month ago, which was a giant building projection where people were playing Snake.
Yeah.
Like old Nokia Snake using
Nice.
using a tablet.
Have you
Yeah.
seen Snake for Lumia? It's
No.
amazing. It transforms the screen of the Lumia. It looks like an old 6110, and you play Snake on it.
Epic.
Pretty rad.
They actually, you know, if memory serves, there were elements of the light show that were actually kind of reminiscent of Snake. So there were
Yeah.
a couple of
Cool.
things trickling up and down the building, very like
It's an
Snake,
amazing
so-
show. If you go to YouTube and if you're not watching the video version of the show, just go to YouTube and search for Dead Mouse Lumia 800 and you'll check it out. Only lasted 5 minutes, probably because it cost like £4 squillion per second.
They blew half of the budget that Microsoft gave them.
Yeah, no, Microsoft didn't give them the budget. That's unconfirmed. They may or may
Okay.
not have.
That may or
may not have
these
given
are
them
not the droids
250
you are
million.
looking for, right?
There's no droids here.
Yeah. So big launch. I showed this to a friend of mine who's not into technology, and he said, okay, two things. Firstly, what's 4D? And I was like, it's what you call something when you really need to stand out never mind. It's
big,
it's nothing.
like huge.
Forget about the 4D thing and just watch this building light up. And then he said, what does Deadmau5 have to do with Nokia? And what does music have to do with the Lumia 800? And of course, that's one of the big stories in South Africa, is that Nokia music services are fully active and enabled in the country. So not only can you buy music on the platform without having to lie about being American
or Albanian,
which is terrible,
Yes.
so degrading. You can buy music, but then you can also get these live music mixes. So for the first time, South Africans have access to a streaming service. It's not quite on the level of a Spotify or a Pandora, but you know, it'll do.
So the nice thing about that, though, is you can synchronize 3 of their predefined streams. So they have this like radio mix type service,
Yeah.
where they playlist those. You can actually download those for offline use, which is kind of cool.
Right.
You can also create your own stations, but those stations are for streaming only.
Yes. Yeah.
But, you know, I think very, very cool, especially if you're going to use it across a Wi-Fi network. People have said, you know, the 3G costs are going to be astronomical. I'm streaming more and more radio and audio service in my home using, you know, ADSL.
Well, they're
and
wrong
Office,
about
right?
3G. It's not expensive anymore.
It's not, yeah.
Most music streams. Well, I mean, you can. I don't know if you can adjust it on the Nokia. I haven't tried it.
But 128 is pretty much what they average at the
so
moment.
we're talking
128K, 54 meg an hour.
Exactly.
Not
So out
exorbitant.
of bundle, you're talking 50 rand an hour
Yeah.
for music.
Yeah.
It's not
No.
In bundle.
I mean,
No.
I
Considerably
used to
less.
have one of those really cool Tivoli radios.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And one
Yeah.
of my moves, it grew legs and walked away. It obviously didn't like the new house, so it moved somewhere else. I'm sure it's not quite as nice as my house, but it moved anyway.
You don't know what you're missing
That
to
goes
your
without
radio.
Yeah, exactly. But what I use for my radio
Ben's
is I use my
man cave was much
iPad and I
nicer.
use TuneIn Radio, which is the app for it. And I mean, my favorite radio station is Mix FM, which is the Midrand community radio station.
What a
Such a
fantastic
win.
station.
Such a
And
win.
okay, out in my neck of the woods, in the cave in Michalisburg, the reception's not quite so good. But on streaming, it's perfect.
Well, I have Tux FM back in my life, which makes me very happy.
Can I tell you all something to try over the next week that I've been playing with for about a week now that I've
No,
been...
you can't.
Okay.
Moving on.
Come on, Simon.
Okay, Brett.
All right. So, I was reading Vatkakia this week, and there's a banner on the side of Vatkakia that says interwebsradio.com.
Yes.
Click on it. Check it out. Most rad indie tunes. Don't know the full details of it at the moment. Actually, I do, but I'm not allowed to disclose the full details of it right now. But check it out, 128 kilobit stream, awesome indie music, minimal amount of ads. And when the ads flight, they are the best ads ever. Remember the old Peter Stuyvesant ads in the movie theaters? All right, like, you know,
They're
Rio,
okay.
da-da-da-da, you know, all of that kind of really cheesy kind of stuff. All right,
Watch
all
it.
of the ads are like these old, fantastic ads from like the 70s and 80s. So just
Gotta
do
love
it. Get interwebsradio.com.
Cool.
Click on the stream,
We've been,
lashes it into iTunes, and it rolls.
We've been talking about this for a while, but I mean, we're going to be seeing more and more of this. Two
Yeah.
Oceans
Yeah.
Vibe is doing a great job out of Cape
Yeah.
Town.
It's very good.
A lot of niche radio. It's going to completely disintermediate FM. We've been telling the guys this for ages. Not all of them have been listening, but FM is kaputten, especially when it comes to music in the long term.
So if
It's always going to have an application, but we are going to see these, especially with what's happening in South Africa in the broadband space at the moment. Internet radio is the thing.
if 3G was a little bit more reliable at the moment, for if I could literally get in my car in Highlands North and drive to Pretoria
Yeah.
and know that I had a decent 3G signal all the way,
Preach.
I would be listening to internet radio. Seriously, I would be doing it.
Well, I do.
Now the problem is it switches to Edge so much at the moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it just cans the connection, and then you're
It's
driving
just a big
around
black
in
hole
traffic,
around Centurion.
gazing down at your smartphone, trying not to drive into somebody while getting your tunes going again. Seriously, there is absolutely no reason we can't be doing that. In fact, when Mini launched the Countryman last year, one of the features is this internet radio integrated kind of vibe that they have in the car, which is
Yeah.
also very cool.
Yeah.
App for the iPhone. So I think it really could go.
Well, at the moment, we're trying to
Somewhere
decide
cool.
where that leaves us. Podcasting is fantastic. Live is better. I've always loved live. It's what I'm used to. When I started on radio at Varsity, it's live that makes it. That's why we try and do this show live. And live is sort of the final frontier. That's where we want to be headed. But what does it look like? What value can we add? How can we work with these other guys in the space? That's where things get interesting.
Sure.
watch this space.
Yeah, it's
Or listen to
definitely
it.
going to be cool.
Because we'll figure it out one day.
In the
We are
meantime,
moving
it's
ever
free.
closer.
So, use
So
it.
yes, back to Nokia Lumia 800, fantastic device. You know, I was chatting to it was actually Christo Darvel when he was up here for the 22.7 launch. I had him on 5FM, and we had the Lumia 800 at the same time, and he was saying, you know, it's such a fantastic device, but we overlook how attached you get to your phone, or rather your platform that you've had for 3 or 4 years that you've been buying apps for. So in my case, I've kind of been buying apps across all of the platforms, like BlackBerry, iPhone, Android. I've probably spent more on apps for the iPhone, probably because there are more apps for the iPhone.
Sure.
Recently, I've been buying a lot of Android apps. But, you know, you get to a space where you found that perfect note-taking app. You've paid your $10 for it or whatever. You've got 3 or 4 games that you really love playing. You've paid for them. You've managed to integrate this thing with your Dropbox and your SugarSync and your desktop at home and your contacts and your calendar and your Exchange and whatever you need. And once you get to that point of 3-4 years down the
that
road,
panacea.
it's not just about a fantastic other option presenting itself. It doesn't just have to be fantastic. It has to somehow ease you out of the ecosystem you're used to.
No, but can I tell you something? A change is as good as a holiday, and I've been really, really impressed with Android of late. I said this, I'm sure I said this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. I'd be ready to switch to Android if it wasn't for one app that I'm missing right now.
What's that?
Instagram. Everything else I make use
Well, it's
of. And
coming.
no, well, you know, but you know, here's the interesting thing, and that's exactly the point I'm trying to make, is in that kind of environment, people can put enough pressure on a company to say, okay, really, can we please have a version for our platform of choice right now? And it's coming.
Yeah.
They've got 2 whole developers on it at the moment. What you need to know is that the team consists of, I think, 7 people. So that's a pretty big development resource. They've chucked it.
company's working
Indeed.
on this.
Half of the development force, probably 2/3 of the development force right now are working on this
That's
app.
really good.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
But it opens things up. The only gripe I've got with it, Si, and this is probably where you were going with this as well, is you have to pay twice now.
Yeah.
I already own Instagram on...
Although, let's be honest, you're paying,
On
how
iPhone?
much is Instagram? No,
Yeah.
Instagram is free, isn't it?
No, Instagram... No.
Well, we'll
I
find
actually
out
don't
very
know.
quickly. I'm
I
pretty
actually
sure
don't
it's
know,
free.
but you know, there
But
are
even,
certain
let's
apps
say
that are premium.
$3, like, it's 18 rand,
But
dude.
also, I mean,
No,
bear in
that
mind,
kind of stuff
now.
I won't mind.
I
That's
mean,
kind of stuff
you guys
I
are
won't mind.
really in the minority in terms of people who swap phones that regularly as well.
Sure.
You know, I mean, it's not a problem
Instagram's
that's being
free.
faced by a lot of people.
Pretty sure, anyway. Yeah, look, it's not a big problem when your apps are $10 or $20. I mean, we're not talking about a Photoshop level. There we go.
Sure.
Free, right? Carl's busy.
Free?
Checking it out. On my screen, it just says
Okay.
install because I bought it already. So
But
Free.
That's why Carl is awesome.
no, but look, I've managed to set up my entire Android
there,
ecosystem
it says
as good.
free downloads.
As good as what it is on the iPhone right now. I'm really wanting for nothing. They've done fantastic work with a Twitter client. There's push notifications in Android now. The one thing I appreciate about Android, though, is it feels a little bit smoother than what iOS does. So
Think so?
that's what's
To
dude.
me, Android still feels like a bit of a clunker, but that's okay because clunkiness is usually the price you pay for openness, right? Like
Sure.
you can't have your cake and eat it.
Although, mind
always.
you, Motorola
Sometimes you
Razr
can.
running
Sometimes you can
2.3,
run Gen 2.
awesome, absolutely awesome. They've managed to bring the cool little bits that we were missing that are in Ice Cream Sandwich
Yeah.
down into that OS, and it's
Awesome.
that is probably my favorite handset at the
I
moment.
think the
is
Galaxy
that.
Nexus is my favorite Android device.
You know what? It just doesn't feel there from a hardware design perspective yet. It doesn't have any
So
quirks or
I'll
interestingnesses.
tell you the
It's
one
just
thing I
this
don't like about
very
it.
normal
But that's
device,
exactly
right?
what it's supposed to be. It's
No,
supposed to be
for-
totally vanilla.
Yes, no, for sure. But
Yeah.
that almost is what I miss when I have that device next to the Razr. The Razr's got coolness to it. It's
I
got
don't know. I think the Android
Kevlar
platform,
backs and little bulges
Oh,
and
I don't
stuff.
know.
You
Cool
know,
that is.
Android, it doesn't need those bells and whistles. As
I
it
don't know.
is a stripped down, beautiful platform that's highly customizable. It's
The
it's
Galaxy
exactly what it
Nexus has the same problem that that the Razr has, and which the iPhone and the Nokia Lumia 800 don't have, and that's they make these screens too big.
yeah, there's a little bit too big.
You know,
You're
for
right.
things
Yeah.
created in Asia, like like an Afrikaans
Yes, let's make
farmer
economy
looks
class
like an
small,
Afrikaans
but
farmer
iPhone's
designed the screen. It's like
something.
I've got moeite groot hande, and I need like this big thing I can
They're actually
stab my
tablet
fat
PCs
fingers
for
in.
Asia.
Like, I don't understand why they make the screen so big. This isn't a difficult concept. Hold the phone, move your thumb around, okay? If it's missing any part of the screen, you've made it too big. Go back and do it again.
That is why the Note is a complete fail for me. I can see how a lot of business people would love it.
I don't
For me,
understand
it was
why
like
you
2
buy it.
days, and I was like, I have to use 2 hands with this device. Sorry, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm usually driving with my other hand, or eating with my other hand, or
Do you really
you
like? Does
know?
everyone have the secret quota of the number of gadgets they're allowed to have? If we do, then I'm buggered. But that you can't have a tablet and a phone.
no,
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 of
no, no.
Have a
See,
tablet and a phone.
well, Sam, I've been saying for a while now that this convergence thing is rad up to a point.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I really like having a notebook and a tablet and a
a phone.
Kindle. I can do the same
And a phone.
thing. Lots of 80% of the functionality is mirrored across those 3 devices, and the phone. Ben, you're dead right. But I prefer having 4 separate devices for 4 separate, like almost thought spaces or like
Oh,
work
hell
modes
no.
or whatever the case.
Brett's
You want
actually
one
got a
device that does everything, Si?
I
Brett
want to
actually
carry
got
as
a
little
fifth-
around as possible.
Brett's got a
Really?
5th device. He's got his nano watch.
Oh, see, but that's just rad. Because I had to have it because it's rad.
I
Right?
just want to carry around as few devices as possible.
But
Like, I
Si,
like
so why
things
didn't
to
you
be
kick your
simple.
so why
I
didn't you
don't-
kick your Kindle into touch then? If you have an iPad that
I don't
can read
carry
books
my
too.
Kindle anyway. I use it
No,
on
no,
the
for
phone
sure.
now.
But I'm saying, I'm not saying I'm going to carry them around with me everywhere, but I like having distinct modes of thought,
Yes, I
or
agree with
or
you.
like workspaces or thought spaces.
But
you know?
also, yeah, I mean, I when there's this funny thing. So
You're
I now
thinking
bring.
in silos, sis.
That's okay. I bring my Kindle to work with me.
I'm like the
and-
anti-converger. Yeah,
anti-convergent.
it's not a
And
movement. Sam.
lunch break, I go and sit outside in the sunshine with my Kindle,
Me
and there's
too.
no work on it at all.
When I
And
go and
so-
collect my
15
kids, because I can
minutes.
read it in the sunlight.
Yeah,
When I go
yeah,
and
yeah.
collect my kids from school, I pitch up a half an hour early.
Maybe we're
I have
just
my
fuddy-duddies,
I sit
Brett.
under a tree. I take out my Kindle and I read.
There's
And I don't
nothing
get
wrong with the
glare.
Kindle. I'm not dissing the Kindle. I'm just saying I want to. I'm not saying I can. I'm saying I want to carry around as few devices as possible. There's nothing worse than traveling, especially flying. And you've got a laptop and a Kindle and an iPad and a phone and a camera. And it's like, I look retarded. I do. Okay? I look like Inspector Gadget goes on holiday. And I
That's
don't dig it.
awesome.
I'm normally carrying
just
like
need a
3
utility
handsets
belt
with me and a
first of
spare
all.
laptop, and people are like, "Why?" I'm like, "Don't you dare!" I've totally loaned a laptop to somebody once and a smartphone, and my spare Kindle is in case somebody's Kindle.
Now,
screen
one thing I
cracks.
will say for your approach is that, convergence doesn't work for everything. So as good as mobile cameras are, like it's not going to beat a G12 or a P7000
Yeah.
in your backpack.
Although,
The 4S is very good, and so is the Lumia, but
Yes.
they're not at the level of.
but have you seen the
S100
little
or a-
add-on cameras that are not cameras, lenses that are
Lenses, yeah.
available for the iPhone
They're
now?
pretty impressive.
There's a little macro
you're
lens,
still
there's a
shooting
fish
through that
eye.
little sensor through that
Oh.
little lens. Like
Yeah.
You're still shooting something the size of your fingernail.
exactly,
It's
you
just
can
something the
increase
size-
you
twice
can
the size of your
increase
thumb.
your angles and things, but you can't. I mean, you just can't improve on
No.
the ISO of the sensor or your aperture limits. Like it's. Aperture is a function of the lens, but you're stuck with this lens.
So
on
I don't think
the-
it's ever going to replace cameras used by professional photographers, but for people who would have bought those bridge cameras, they're kind of
that's
fixed
where I disagree.
lens. You
The
could
bridge
totally buy one of
cameras
those.
it's selling more than ever. So professionals are starting to carry around G12s, S100.
Yeah.
Their sensors
I
their
think-
processors have become really powerful,
Mm.
and they've got SLR sensors in
What-
them. So
What
I-
these ones
Okay.
kill is the McKendrick.
yes,
The kind of entry level
Compact.
cheap ass
Yeah, yeah.
compact cameras,
Yeah.
the
There's
kind that Kodak tried to make.
well, strictly speaking, the
May they
G12
rest
still
in
a
peace.
compact, but
No,
your entry level, your entry level
camera.
your entry level compact.
Cool Pix is what
I
it's
haven't
killing.
used an entry level compact that beats the 4S. It's hands down
But
better.
see, this is the point. 80% of the time, the photo I want to take, all right, I don't have my SLR with me, right? Because I haven't gone, okay, I'm going on a photo excursion today. I haven't gone, I'm going to go and take, and it's just too much of a hassle to carry around an SLR with 2 big lenses everywhere, right?
Dude, I'm agreeing with you.
So-
my luister nie.
Yeah. But
I'm
these little
saying-
lenses, first thing I'm getting when I get to the States, I want that fisheye. I just want to be able to take awesome fisheye shots with my 4S.
There's a lot to be said for that, especially in that case
fun.
where the fisheye is very pancake. It doesn't take up a lot of space.
No,
It's very cool.
I'm talking about the ones that are about the size of a 50-cent
Yes.
coin, all right, and they're
You get
the
one
height of
that's
like
molded
2
into the case and it really doesn't
no
take
2
up so much
boxes of
space.
matches. It has a little ring that you glue onto the phone body itself. That's magnetic, and then these little interchangeable lenses have little caps that go on either end, and you can hang them off your keys, right? So the nice thing is they're like single focal length, but you kind of clip them on and take a shot, right?
Very cool.
$30 a piece, which I think is also an
Yeah.
absolute steal.
So the Lumia 800 is an amazing camera.
That it does.
And Windows Phone's looking really nice in the hands of Nokia. They've gotten permission from Microsoft to call this the first real Windows Phone, which I'm sure HTC's loving
Thrilled.
Microsoft for.
Because the new HTCs have just rolled out and they don't look too bad either.
No.
The new Mango phones are very nice. from
But
them, so.
but I must say Nokia's done everything right. So we were talking about attachment and ecosystems, how difficult it is to break people out of that. But if you have no attachment and you're looking for a phone,
Yeah.
free maps, free voice navigation, things that'll cost you at least $50 in apps on an iPhone or an Android device. Well, no, on Android it's free. Sorry, on an iPhone you'll have to spend about $50 to get voice guided navigation, turn by turn. Free Nokia Maps is a really awesome service. The music is there. It works in South Africa. You don't have to lie about where you live. In fact, there isn't even much of a sign up required to get.
No, it's like the
streaming.
only time you encounter that is when you start
Yeah.
actually buying, right? You've got to put in credit card details. It's scary how big a differentiator the maps are, though, Si, because there isn't a premium turn-by-turn navigation solution for Windows Phone right now outside of Nokia Maps.
Yeah, look, TomTom and that'll follow. They were available for. I mean, I remember using Windows Mobile on TomTom on Windows Mobile
Yeah,
Back
and
in the day.
Garmin, yeah, Garmap.
10 years ago. But no, TomTom was available.
And
for
TomTom's
Windows
always been
Mobile.
very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those little extras.
But it's that's a huge differentiator at the moment. I would hate to be someone else selling a Windows Phone right now because there are, outside of hardware and everything else, some really compelling reasons to choose a Nokia over any other
Well, and
phone
Nokia's
right now.
just made a really beautiful device. The injected polycarbonate
Yeah.
case is beautiful. The screen is really amazing. It's curved glass. It just really looks the part, and it's nice having all of the services, gratis and legally without having to lie.
What
I like it.
do you guys think of that prediction that they actually put out at the launch? So they said that IDC and there was another analyst firm have predicted that Windows Phone will be the second biggest smartphone platform by 2015.
Smoking something.
I think there's no way.
It depends.
But, yeah.
I would say that the big factor would be how quickly they can penetrate developing markets where there isn't, where iOS share is on, I don't know, 5%.
Yeah, but then they've got to fight against BlackBerry.
Yeah, but I don't think they'll have to fight that fight for long. I think BlackBerry might implode and remove themselves. That's my
I
thinking.
don't know
Get
so
sold to
much.
Microsoft.
You know what? It's strange. So that means they're going to have to be bigger than iPhone. That's the bottom line, because they're never going to be bigger than Android. Android is now the biggest smartphone platform in the world, and it's going to go from strength to strength from here. But to compete against iOS and iPhone, I think that the thing these guys aren't counting on is the fact that Apple has it in its strategy right now to release extremely low-cost iPhones.
Yeah.
Very limited capacity 3GSs, so 8 gig 3GSs on prepaid for very little money. And I think that's going to be this big second wave explosion because a whole bunch of people have wanted that platform but just haven't been able to afford it up to now.
I mean, I think essentially Apple have the ability to release, to make deals with carriers to basically make a 3GS free.
Yeah.
And a 4 free when the 5 releases next year.
Yeah.
And that is the killer thing. And I mean, when you got $98 billion sitting in your bank account, you really got a lot of room to undercut your competitors.
I think that you might be overestimating how much the average man on the street in developing markets wants an Apple phone.
Absolutely.
I think you're overestimating it. Like, if you look at any of those brand surveys, preference is still entirely for Nokia. It's what people know, and I think that if they play off that well and help people make that transition, then they could. I think
that
they could
won't be a
compete.
Windows Phone success story,
Yeah, no,
though.
for
That
sure.
will be a Symbian success
Yeah,
story. Their new, what is the name of the range of devices? Something with an A.
Oh, the Ashes.
Asher devices that they're pushing into emerging markets. I think they've got the formula right there. They've hit the right price points. They've got an app framework. It's got Angry Birds.
Lowest common denominator being Java. You can code in Java and Qt. It's like it's really, really powerful. There's
I
like
think
a
they're gonna
second
fly.
coming there. Yeah. The challenge for them is going to be to get a sub $99 Windows Phone into the market if they want to get real traction on that, because Android is there with the ZTE and the Huawei devices right now, and those devices are like what $79 I think in Kenya now for an Android device. That is, I mean, it's crap. Don't get me wrong. It's not inspiring hardware, but it works, and the touchscreen is competent, and you can download apps and you can do smart stuff with it. That's where it's
Definitely.
at. They're going to have to get to that price point if they're going to compete.
Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about mobile and applications, let's mention our sponsor of the ZA Tech Show, Vodacom, of course. It's been, almost 6 months with Vodacom on board, and we are, of course, very happy to have them as our sponsors of the ZA Tech Show. They've got their very own app store. You can find it by going to vodacom.mobi/apps. Some really useful applications that have been launched by the South African development community. One, for example, is the Easy K53 app. So if you've got a teenager getting ready to do their driver's license test, this is an app that helps them through the K53 process. Available, it's a premium app. It was free for, I think, January, so today's your last day to get it, and then it will be sold for 30 Rand. How much do the K53 books cost at
It's
like
like
CNA?
100,
Yeah.
100.
So for
Yeah.
$30, you got a mobile application, more engaging, something to help them get through it. Another locally produced app is Expenser that enables users to keep track of their expenses. And there's SMS Reply, which automatically sends SMS replies while you're driving, which could be very, very handy. So check out the Vodacom App Store. They've got 140,000 free apps and now also premium apps. They've had over 500,000 downloads in the first 3 months of the Vodacom App Store. So it's been a roaring success. And check it out at vodacom.mobi/apps. Otherwise, you can SMS the word apps, that's APPS, to 31116. It's a free SMS, and they'll send you a link to click on to get to the App Store from your phone. We are, of course, thrilled to have Vodacom on board as our sponsors of the ZA Tech Show. Check them out at vodacom.co.za. And now, let's talk about 227.
Indeed.
So the guys at 227 don't mind if you call it a personal financial management application.
What do they
PFM.
prefer you to call it?
They're trying to make it so much more than that. So they're going,
Yeah.
well, this is what you can do with, I think they're PFMs,
Mm.
personal financial management. Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
what you can do with a PFM. It tracks and it helps you do a little bit of budgeting, and you can see where you spent your money. But what they really want you to do is change your behavior, right? They
Yeah.
want to make you aware of what you're doing with your money and help you to save, and that's something that I haven't seen other PFMs do.
No, I mean, I must say, that has been the most impressive thing about the platform. And I've been comparing them to Money Smart, which I've been trying out for a good couple of months now, which is very much your traditional rigid,
PFM,
these are your categories.
And a great
like, and
one,
your budget.
actually.
It is very good if you are that sort of rigid personality. But of course, the thing is that we don't actually spend like that. It's more about what you do habitually that kind of impacts. So they tell me. Clearly, I'm not
So-
managing my money very well.
Join the club.
So for me, the killer piece of functionality is this ability to just look at one statement
Yeah.
and see
All of your accounts,
all of my
merged.
transactions, right? That is ridiculously useful
It is.
because, why can't I even do that with FNB that I have all of my accounts with right now? I've got to look at separate statements. Now I've got the ability to lash in my credit cards and stuff like that from third parties, which is
Very cool.
extremely useful. That's rad.
Yeah.
I like the way that they have tried to take away that hassle of budgeting away.
Yeah.
All right, so it's simplistic stuff. It's
That predictive thing about
I don't
what
wanna-
your
yeah.
categories are. It's really
I don't
well
want to
done.
have to drill deeply into
Yeah.
into like a huge Excel spreadsheet. No matter what anybody says, if you say Excel is fun, get out more
Yeah.
or seek professional help because it is
So-
not fun playing around in Excel. Right?
I had a friend once in Res, and he was probably the single geekiest human being I've ever met in my life. And he had an Excel spreadsheet for his budget that was so detailed that there was a column for money he'd picked up off the street. And there was stuff in
Hey,
it.
that
Yeah.
can be a
What was his
substantial
name?
amount of
What's
money
his
in
name?
varsity.
I don't think I want to say it because he very well
No,
might
just give me his
be
first
a
name.
listener. Tim.
Tim, get out more.
He's a
So
very strange individual.
227 caused a bit of an uproar in South Africa. Firstly, they didn't tell any of the banks that they were planning their system, and I wouldn't have either.
No.
Some people said they should have told the banks, and then when the banks said we'll shut you down or whatever, just carried on. But it's not that simple. I think they were right to keep it secret from the banks.
Absolutely.
The banks acted like retards in their responses, except probably for Nedbank. Nedbank issued we've looked at it. It's a really cool tool. Consider the fact, though, that you have to be careful with your password kind of thing. Essentially saying what the other banks said, but in a more
polite.
diplomatic
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
ABSA came out, named 227, said you shouldn't be using the service. It's a terrible idea. Then we found out ABSA's working on their own PFM, and there was a little bit of, but we're working on that already, so you can't also give it to our customers. FNB were kind of in between Nedbank and ABSA, sort of going, it looks like Michael Jordan, in fact, tweeted that it looks like a great idea, but the risk is all yours if you use it. Because you have to give your internet username and password.
Yeah.
Here's the thing for me, though. I wrote a blog post about why it's safe to use 227 and got a lot of flack for it. I was called irresponsible. I was asked if I was going to pay people back if they lost their money. But the thing is,
No and no.
for people who spend a lot of time in Europe and America, these systems are nothing new.
Yeah.
PFMs have been around in the American market for a decade. Mint is probably the biggest known one in the USA. They all use aggregation services. In the case of 227, it's a service called Yodlee. And Yodlee officially partners with banks to aggregate data. Now, unfortunately, none of the South African banks are Yodlee partners. So the idea is simple. You're not logging into 227 with your bank details. When they capture your username and password, they aren't capturing it at all. You're actually feeding it straight into Yodlee systems. Yodlee's been doing this for 11 years. They have, over 30 million customers, and in the last 11 years haven't had a single breach. So their security systems are tight. It's not a perfect system, nothing is, but it's tight.
Yeah.
They've had to build scrapers that log into your South African bank account and extract the data. I don't even want to know what goes into a script like that because it must be hell to code.
Yeah,
And I'm
it's
sure there's a
pretty
fair
impressive.
amount of like human coding involved there as well. Somebody
Oh,
like
a hell of a lot.
no, but I'm saying somebody actually looking at what the output is, inspecting it, and
Yeah, and checking.
kind of checking that it's selecting the right fields,
Yes.
couple
Yeah.
of passes, and a bit of human quality control in the process.
But what
Totally.
needs to happen is we need the South African banks to partner with the Yodlee and these
Yeah.
aggregation
Or
services.
just give us
Well-
APIs, bitches.
Well,
Come on.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you don't need to take our passwords. You just need
Yeah.
our account number and you can scrape the data without
Yeah.
permission.
I mean, look, I think part of it, obviously, the banks, part of it has got to be their legal team saying you cannot endorse this because otherwise we're buggered
Sure.
if anything does go wrong. And the other thing is that from their perspective, this is something that banks probably feel that they should be owning. They should be owning this relationship with the customer. And they should have done this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, they should have started building these. And they know this because they all have been sort of hinting that they are sort of, building their own. So, a little bit of, you should have gotten there earlier, really.
I mean, and the point is the one thing that 227 offers, which no bank can offer, is having access to accounts across multiple banks
And
Yeah.
retail
and
store
retail
accounts
stores.
as well.
Yeah.
I mean, well, they
Yeah,
could
that
a
is-
bank.
That's
A
awesome.
bank could
Awesome,
probably
that's
do the
very
retail
cool.
stores because
Yeah.
they're not competition.
Yeah.
But there's no ways in hell that Nedbank are going to say
No.
to FNB, "Oh, this is the API you
Yeah.
can use to log for you guys to log
Sure,
onto
yeah.
our servers and scrape our
Do you
information."
know, I'd love them to start adding those sort of long-term financial products. So your sort of retirement annuity funds and all of that sort of
Yeah,
thing,
that'd be
plugging in that
awesome. Yeah, yeah.
long-term view into here as well.
I get an update like once a quarter
Yeah.
in an email, and then once a year when I meet with my broker, and she asks me for more money. But literally,
Yeah.
I mean, it would be rad to be
Yeah.
able to see on like a week-to-week basis. It would make me feel better about lashing
Yeah,
huge
totally.
amounts of money out
Well,
on.
I think this is what's really
black
been
hole.
exciting for me about 227 is that I think it's the first of many. I think that the South African public, for all of their worries and fears, have shown that they are willing and excited and hungry for this sort of service. So I'm hoping that we'll see 5 more within the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I just want to draw a distinction between, and I mean, Mint has done extremely well in the US, obviously, and they're kind of a household name in this kind of space. The one major differentiator that was pointed out to me, which I actually kind of like, is Mint is a free service, and they make their money out of recommending financial products to their users. Okay,
Yeah.
so immediately raises a red flag. It's like, who is the customer really? Is the customer the banking and financial guys that they are recommending solutions on behalf of, or the person getting the service at the end of the day?
Yes.
I'm happy to pay my $70 a month to 227 and not have an ad and not have won't you consider this retirement solution from XYZ bank, or maybe you should be switching to ABC, whatever. That would really annoy me because it's disingenuous. I would really like to be able to pay $70 to somebody and not have to worry about that, and that's what 227 does. So I like it a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And let me just say that I think the South African bank's response to this is exactly what anybody would have expected, right? And given what they are, and given that they are dinosaurs in their processes and their way of thinking about personal finances, this is the response that a service like 227 was always going to get.
Yeah.
That's okay. You're dinosaurs, and that's how you respond to change. We get it. Not change. Thank you.
Can I tell you what
And
was
they have to,
so interesting today, and I mentioned this in the pre-show stuff, was of course, FNB's announced that they're taking away the one-time pins for login from the 22nd, I think, of Feb onwards.
Yes.
Now, if you've been playing with 22/7, all right, Simon and I have been playing with it for a while. 2 a.m. in the morning, sometimes it logs in. Now, the thing is, if you have multiple bank accounts, so I have accounts with FNB, Standard Bank, and Nedbank. So what happens is it logs into all 3 of those accounts at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and I get these lovely SMSs. So now what happens is I've got to turn my phone on to silent at night, but then be paranoid about the fact that if a family member needs to get hold of me for some form of emergency at 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm not going to be able to hear anything. So it's like,
what you can do is, if you're an FNB customer, you can create a
separate,
view-only account,
Yeah.
and then just devnull the SMS messages.
but they're
That's
now
clever.
taking that away from the 22nd of Feb onwards.
Why
She's
do you
very
think that they're
enlightened of
taking
them.
it
Well,
away?
here's the question. It's like, are they thinking ahead and going, okay, we think that our customers are going to make use of this. Let's be less of an irritation factor. Or, like some speculation on Twitter today, do they feel that the security systems are just robust enough to tolerate it? Personally, when InContact came along, I was very, very comforted by the fact that it would let me know when somebody logged onto my bank account, and it would let me know the moment more than $50 passed through any of my accounts. Now I'm not all that worried about that.
Yeah.
Now I'm just worried about activity on my account. And you know what? If you're still prevented from being able to do that with a one-time PIN, rock and roll. So the thing is, you're not going to have to use a one-time PIN for login anymore. So some people have, all right? But I would really like them to be able to just take away the notification. So maybe you're right. So you just create a separate profile or whatever it is, and
Look, I have it
devnull
on
that.
good authority that 2 of our banks are talking to Yodlee.
That's good news.
I don't know which banks they are, and I can't tell you how I know.
I mean, it could be an issue
I have
that
it on good authority.
that because nobody was using Yodlee in South Africa, there was no 22/7 before. The
Right.
bank saw no need to talk to Yodlee. I mean, if no one's using the service, then why the hell would I be talking to these people? Now all of a sudden there is actually a requirement for me to actually talk to this organization,
Yes.
because in fact it's good corporate governance. It's
Yeah.
if I wasn't talking to Yodlee as a bank, I would actually be in serious trouble, because now I know that a portion of my user base is going to be giving their username and password to this organization. If
Yeah.
I don't know and trust this organization, then I'm actually being seriously deficit in my corporate responsibility.
Ben, beyond that, if you're not speaking to them from the perspective of like long-term sustainability
Yeah.
of your banking platform and going, I want to make revenues and offer services that differentiate me and make me lots and lots of dollars or rands or whatever the case is well into the future, I'd say it's exactly the same thing.
But
The board
that's-
should be jumping on those guys and going, why haven't you been
They
speaking to them?
should be, but
Walk
banks,
with your pants
South
down.
African banks do not work like that. They are totally reactive. And
Yeah.
this is the point, is that if South African banks were at all proactive, they've known about services like Mint and LearnVest and all these other things. They would have said, this is an inevitability, let's be the first one
We've
to
been
market.
tweeting about Mint for
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
better
yeah.
part of 2 years.
Twitter.
Exactly.
The only bank that understands Twitter is FNB.
Yeah.
What's a Twitter?
The funny
Come
thing
on.
is that Standard Bank were ahead of the curve
With?
with Twitter. So they were on social media before FNB were.
Yeah, but dude, and they probably had telephones first too, but it's what you do with them that's the problem.
Well, I mean, okay, my love
Twitter's
for, my,
just a communications
my
platform.
love
There's
for
nothing
Standard Bank
special about
is
it. It's
well
what you do with it.
documented on this
Oh, my word.
podcast, so I won't go into it further. But
I
the
just
point is
can't,
that
Ben.
but they've lost their. I mean, FNB are so far ahead of everybody else
Yeah.
that it's just not funny anymore.
Yeah. All right. So what else is happening this week? There's rumors that Facebook is preparing to IPO any day now, which would be interesting news. They would. I mean, if their valuation of $100 billion holds true, that's a nice cap to enter the market with.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Nobody could have predicted what happened with LinkedIn when it IPO'd and quadrupled its share price in 2 days. I suspect we might see something similar with Facebook. I've just finished reading In the Plex by Stephen Levy. I've spoken about it like 3 times on the show now. But at the end, he's the audiobook, which is what I listened to. He added in some things that aren't in the printed version of the book, and one of those is an interview with Marissa Mayer from Google. But they spend a lot of time talking about Facebook, the threat that Facebook is to Google, how Google is yet to master social, and the latent value of a Facebook that hasn't listed yet and yet has so much perceived value and so much weight and gravitas. It'll be interesting to see what happens if Facebook does IPO.
Yeah.
Are you going to get some of that action, Si?
No, I don't play the stock market. Funny, because I give people advice on it every week. But the simple fact is, if you've got debt, which I do, I've got a bond, and you play the stock market,
best
you're
place.
smoking Vienna's.
Silly, yeah.
Smoking
Melissa-
Vienna's, love it.
Melissa Meyer, by the way, is one of my favorite people on Google Plus at the moment. So
Marissa
she's a
Meyer, I
great-
don't
yeah.
follow her. I should.
She's very good. Really high quality
Well,
posts.
mobile. I remember mobile was her beat at Google last I checked.
Mm.
She left search to go and work on mobile.
Yeah.
and-
No, it's quite broad. I mean, she talks a lot about Google Plus on Google Plus, but it's all very interesting stuff.
She was like employee number 4 or 5 or something at Google.
It's mad, dude.
Crazy.
It's mad.
They've now got, 25,000? Something like that. And Paige has been organizing and then some. He's really been slashing old projects, consolidating new ones. Like, there's been a lot of action at Google this year. We've spoken about it in the show before. I think that's what it takes for Google to get to the next level, actually. And not become a company like Microsoft that gets caught with its pants down 18 times in a row and then has all of this bloat that it can't get rid of. And
Look, they definitely still have like the raddest campus I've been to out of any.
Well, how
tech
many of
firm.
those campuses have you been to?
I've been to Cisco, I've been to Oracle,
Have
I've
you
been
been
to
to Infinite
Intel,
Loop?
I've been to Microsoft. I've visited Infinite Loop. You aren't allowed through the doors of Infinite Loop unless you have like Class 7 security clearance, 9 DNA samples, and like
I've
one
been
of those
to
helicopters
Twitter.
following you around.
Twitter's
awesome.
offices are cool.
Really?
I hung out with their interface design team.
No, just like little things that I think they get right because they're engineers and they understand how engineers think. And it's not about big salaries. It's about just knowing that they don't have time to do their laundry. So
Yeah.
let's just in every single building put a big ass laundromat and tons of like washing soap and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So when we arrived there, they're like, so this is a staple in every single building, and they've got this room that has like lots of washers and dryers in it, and the dudes like load their clothes in the washer and dryer,
Yeah.
program it, set a timer on their phone, go back to their cubicle, work for 2 hours,
Yeah.
come back, and their laundry's done. Every single kitchen is like fully stocked, and you just like help yourself, clean up after yourself. The one restaurant there used to be run by the Grateful Dead's chef.
Oh,
All right?
so
He was
cool.
there up until like
That's Dave's Cafe, isn't
yeah,
it?
that's right. He was there up until like 2-3 months ago. He's now started his own
So you
place.
basically get like vegan uncooked vegetables.
But you know what the thing is as well? It's like geeks also care about
They
like
do,
long-term stuff
yeah.
and
You're
sustainability.
generalizing. I
a lot
don't.
of geeks.
A lot of
Yeah.
most of the geeks I know care where their
I'm
food
joking,
comes
dude.
from,
Yeah.
cares that stuff's organic
Just
and
we think
whatever.
about things.
So they, you know,
Yeah.
you know,
Sam
all their
Sam
food is like
advocates
comes from, like,
killing rhinos. And
Please
I
don't
like,
bring that
and
up
I
on
don't
the
think
show.
an engine on a car could be too small. So
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
generalize.
we're actually busy designing new offices that we're moving into very soon, and you're absolutely right. You basically have to design it as it digs. So I mean, we've
Yeah.
got the hammocks that we're going to put in so people can sleep over. We've got a gym. Yeah, I mean, you basically it needs to be self-sustainable.
screw that, man. People must work when they're at work.
It must work.
Well, if you want more
clock
people to
in,
work
clock out.
All
24
they need
hours
is
a
my
day, then-
fists.
Engineers are
That's what they need in
different.
the office:
That's
a
the
desk, a
point.
chair, and my fists.
Now, here's something interesting, though. Let me
Oh,
just quickly touch on this. The lady that showed us around Google had been there for a very, very short period. Her name's
Yeah,
Maggie.
that's why she showed
No,
you
no, no,
around
no.
Google instead of.
Her name's
design
Maggie
stuff.
Shears. Maggie Shields, sorry. She's now International Media Liaison, Global Communications and Public. Prior to that, all right, she was a BBC journalist for like 15 years, based in the Valley, and that was her beat. So she was basically a journo, and apparently they made her this offer, and she was like, done. Like resigned and just joined
Yeah, no,
Google.
Now
totally
she
worth
shows
it.
people around Dave's Cafe. What did you
Hey.
see outside of the laundromat in Dave's Cafe?
Look, we had some rad
Like,
interviews,
we
and I'm
got some
writing those
journalists
up.
coming from South Africa. Show them the washing machines and where we eat, and send them on their way.
I saw the gigantic silver slide, which is rad.
That's cool.
They
True
have
glass.
no, dude. I touched it and everything.
You touched
They-
it. Did they let you slide on it?
No, it was closed.
Yeah, like
Seriously.
your
To you.
story.
I have photos of the fact that it was closed. Because get this, apparently,
Did they let you eat in the cafe?
yeah.
They're like, the food's free for the Googlers, but not you.
No. It's
Get your hands on
Have
that
you
slide.
Closer to home and talking about silver slides, have you guys seen Missing Links offices?
Very
they're
cool.
they're the presentation design company in South Africa. Probably
made
the
Ink
coolest
magazine.
office in South Africa.
Wow.
So cool. They have a
Yeah.
big silver slide.
They're on
Okay.
Inc. Magazine's top
Amongst-
10, if I remember correctly.
Really?
Great offices in the world.
Very
Rich has
cool.
got a treehouse for his office.
Yeah.
It's a bit
rad.
scary in there, but you know.
Yeah, those stairs are a bit.
So other cool things, they've got bicycles parked outside every single building.
That's
So if
cool.
you need to get around, you hop on a bike, drive, ride it
I'm
to where
hearing
you're
a lot
going and
about where
park
they
it.
eat in the outside of the building. I'm not hearing much about where they actually do stuff at Google, Brett.
It's because,
If we're
Simon,
honest.
I still have to write up my interviews with
Larry Page.
chief of staff for
Chief of staff.
for Google Plus,
For
which
the
is very
washing
rare.
room.
and we interviewed somebody from Mobile Search and from Translate. So there's some
Okay.
very cool stuff there.
Alrighty.
Cool insights.
Rad. It's so much fun. But we have to do our picks of the week. We'll stop bragging, Brett. Should we talk quickly about the mega upload bust?
Yeah, let's quickly talk
Yeah.
about
You know,
that.
one thing that I do want to say about that is people who didn't know mega upload now think that that Kim.com was this big fat German guy who lived on the wrong side of the law and was basically like Osama bin Laden living in New Zealand, right? And that's because he's a big fat German guy who was on the wrong side of the law quite often. But mega upload was used legitimately by a hell of a lot
Yeah.
of people. It was
We used it for file transfer in the
Totally,
office
dude.
all the time, dude.
Yeah.
If you're moving audio or video files around, Mega
So
Upload
handy.
handled big files better than anyone else,
Yeah.
and it kept them around for longer than anyone else. And it was a really great service, you know.
Quick.
Yeah, sure, for breaking the law, but so is a Wursthof knife. Like you can
Mm.
stab the crap out of somebody with that shit. But
Dude, but it's the same
you
as
can also cut bread.
BitTorrent, dude. If you
Yeah.
don't have BitTorrent, it's virtually impossible to get your WoW patches. Okay, Blizzard, as a best practice, makes use of BitTorrent to distribute big files.
Or download an Ubuntu installation file.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
You can't do that without using BitTorrent.
It's like, yes, let's
In
not
South
use
Africa.
BitTorrent and pay 10 times more for the bandwidth.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of story. It's like
Yeah.
it was being used for totally legitimate
But did you see
things too.
the Hollywood, basically, whatever the body's called? They put out that that video in support of SOPA. It was on Vimeo and a few other places. And they got independent filmmakers to talk about how their kids were starving because nobody watched their films. And then they had these videos of Kim.com, and the way they presented him, it was quite blatant. They presented him as somebody who knew that he was screwing people over and making millions of dollars doing it and didn't care and was like,
It's
you know,
funny. It's
showing
almost
them
like
the finger,
Hollywood is
which-
really good at telling stories and
Yeah,
kind
funny
of
that,
manipulating
yeah.
emotions.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I had, I had a lot of discussions about this with people, and I mean, the research is clear. Like, piracy doesn't damage Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hollywood's biggest year ever, they almost reached the $10 billion revenue mark in 2009. Like when piracy was supposed to be doing more damage than ever. If you look at the research, there's the Monty Python example in 2008 where they improved their DVD sales 23,000% by giving away content for free. The more you look at the research, the more you realize that the only people being hurt by piracy are your corner DVD stores. Sure, they get hurt by piracy. And I'm not legitimizing piracy. I'm not saying it's okay to rip off other people's work or whatever. But the fact is that it doesn't hurt the industry. And I think that, a lot of the American public especially has been duped by Hollywood
Simon,
and
but
stories of Kim.com.
I would argue that the corner DVD dudes are dying out not because of piracy, but because there's this thing that happened called the internet.
Yeah.
All right, and it's
Well, Brett, there's no legal way to download movies in South Africa. End of story. There
Yeah.
isn't.
But it
So-
is an
okay,
inevitable
no, but I
decline,
mean,
right?
South Africa's a speck on the map.
No,
Look
but I'm
at
talking about-
Blockbuster
Yeah.
look at Blockbuster in the US, right?
Sure.
Blockbuster, all right, is somehow managing to survive. They're taking a huge hit, but they're still around. You still see Blockbusters all over the show, right? But there's like 30 different ways of legally getting your content, okay? And the fact that your corner DVD stores aren't innovating is I'm sorry for you. It's like the same as the Oxwagon business died out when the
Yeah.
car got invented.
Music is
you know?
next to
I mean,
the
the thing is that there were in America anyway. The corner DVD store got smacked by two things. The first thing it got smacked by was called Netflix, where it was easier
Yeah.
to get somebody to mail you a DVD than it was to go down around the corner and get a DVD.
And keep it for as long
Yes,
as you want
yeah.
and mail it back when you're done, and we'll send you another
That was
one.
the first thing. The second thing is the ability of people to buy and rent the media that they want online cheaply and efficiently. And the fact is that in the long term is going to kill off the DVD store. It is not going to the only way the motion picture or the content generators are going to continue to make lots and lots of money and justify the costs of producing this content is if they give people legitimate ways to purchase it.
So there's there's such a simple way to end piracy overnight. You just have to make the content available to everybody in the world at a reasonable price. The problem, Ben, is in doing that, you have to disintermediate a lot of middlemen, and they're the people fighting for SOPA and crap like that because they're trying to remain relevant, just like the record labels are.
No, absolutely.
The fact is, if the producers of Walking Dead could sell you an episode for $5 without CBS having to do anything, they would bypass CBS, sell you an episode of Walking Dead, make more money than they've ever made before from CBS, and make a better show than they've ever made before with all the mountains of money that they're collecting from the public.
If I said to say to you, you were paying $5 for an episode of Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Okay, that means in a 4 month for 4 episodes, you're paying 160 rand.
Yes.
Okay.
Bargain.
Okay, and
that's what a DVD costs.
Yes. Okay. Now,
Dude,
but then you lose the power.
$99 at Pick and Pay a lot of the time.
So how much?
Anyway.
How many TV series do you watch? Let's say you watch one episode of TV a night. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, of one series. Okay.
Yeah.
That means that you're paying $160 times 5. Okay, or times 7.
Okay.
Okay.
Ben,
now
at 5 was an
compared to
arbitrary amount, $2 an episode.
Okay,
They'll
yeah.
find the right price,
Yes.
right?
No.
Yeah.
Price. It's for me. It's a delicate balance between delivering people the content that they want at the quality that they're willing to tolerate, at the price they're willing to pay.
But Ben, we know where this ends. It ends with an all-you-can-eat subscription service, right? That's where music has gone. That's where movies will go. That's where everything ends up.
Yeah.
That's the way this plays out. It starts off with middlemen kicking against digital because it disintermediates them. It moves on to a company like Apple going, listen, you either play with us or you don't play at all and enjoy your salty cracks. And then it moves on to a Spotify coming up and going, all right, guys, just give us the entire catalog. We charge people $10 a month. Music works like water, end of story.
Yeah.
And that'll happen with movies as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, and TV as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
day
difference
after it broadcasts in the state, it'll be available
Yeah.
anywhere in the world.
Here's the challenge, though. The challenge is if you're a musician, you can make money from live shows. In fact, you make more money from live shows than selling your music. If you're an author, you can make piles of money speaking at conferences and events, and you can make money that way. But if you're an actor or a producer or a director, you can really only make money out of the content. There's no periphery ancillary ways for you to make money.
There's merch, but I don't think it's
it's not on the same level.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, dude. You know what? Make a fantastic series, all right? And people will buy your merch, and they'll buy it for like good money. I know that a lot of people are buying Sons of Anarchy stuff at the moment because it's such an absolutely fantastic series, right?
I mean,
you would buy Game of Thrones pajamas and like.
Who says I don't have Game of Thrones?
Aha!
You know, the guys at Rovio have realized this. Angry Birds is making a packet from merchandise.
If you go to Thailand or anywhere in
sister
the
was
Far
in
East at the moment,
Thailand.
there's Angry Birds
I've
everywhere.
got. She bought me back a Angry Birds T-shirt with the what is the bird is the word.
Dude, they've got a cookbook now that's got like all different ways of cooking eggs, which is fantastic, all right?
That's great.
I brought back little plushies for my kids with the little voice boxes, and you chuck them across the room, they make noises.
Yeah.
There was all different size birds. There's a bird about as big as me,
that's
like
awesome.
huge.
The giant
like,
eagle.
How the hell am I going to get this into an
That is
overhead
so
locker?
cool.
It was just
Yeah.
mental.
You know, on the
And
merchandise.
cut the rope as well. There's tons of cut the rope
I
stuff
love
too.
that game so much. You know, on the merch thing, I mean, Disney movies and kids movies in general are an interesting merchandise story, though, because they make more money off merchandise and,
Well,
and licensing.
My stat for the
than-
day. See, I told I'll make up
Gonna make up a number.
Make up a number.
Better,
is
better sound
that
legitimate.
Cars. This is actually legitimate. The Cars franchise for Pixar. Cars is basically Cars and Cars 2 were their lowest grossing movies that they ever made. Cars has made Cars is their highest generating movie in terms of merchandise.
That's interesting.
They've made it,
Yeah.
it was their lowest grossing
That's
movie.
why they made the sequels, because
Yes,
it's such
because-
a merchandisable
Brand.
movie.
And let's cram lots of characters into it so we
Yeah.
can sell lots of T-shirts
Boys-
with different guys on.
Boys love Cars. My son
Really?
loves Lightning McQueen. No, my son loves.
Revelation a second.
I was talking about the movie rather than the generic
Joking.
motor vehicles.
Boys love
It was a
cars.
proper noun, not a
Yes.
common noun.
So,
Big
somebody in the chat room just pointed out Star Wars is like the original merchandising.
Totally.
All right.
I mean, George
Dude.
Lucas made his money because he held on to the merchandising.
We
rights
really need
Star
to do our
Wars.
picks of the week. Picks of the week. Yes. All right. It's Monday night. You'll forgive me. Okay, shall we start with you, Brett? And please, one this week. Would be
I'm not
nice.
picking anything this week.
Okay, cool. Sam?
Move directly along.
Okay, I have an awesome pick of the week. So I started playing a very old game yesterday, and I finished it, and it was just
Cat.
amazing. No,
Pac-Man.
no,
Alley Cat.
even cooler, way cooler.
Monkey
Alley X.
Island.
No,
Montezuma's
I'll
Revenge.
give you the year 1993. Point and click adventure, funniest
Sam and
point and
Max.
click adventure. Very similar, but not.
Full throttle.
No.
Year
Year of
Day
the
of the Tentacle.
Tentacle.
Day of the
Day of the
Tentacle.
Tentacle. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness, that game! Please go and install it immediately and replay it. It
Old
is the
school, yeah,
funniest thing. Oh my goodness,
Use
what
Scum
joy!
VM or
Yeah,
Yes,
ScumVM or
indeed.
DOSBox. Yeah, I think I used DOSBox and it played fine. Yeah, it's hilarious fun. And I mean, if you don't know the setup, there's 3 characters. One of them's in the past, one of them's in the future, one of them's in the present, and you're sort of sending items back and forth to each other.
Using a
Um,
chronojon,
A
which
chronojon, yes,
which is essentially
toilet.
a toilet, yes.
that travels through time,
flush
and you flush it.
Stuff.
And what was
to
the
each other.
mansion
So funny.
game?
A Maniac,
Maniac
Mansion.
Mansion.
So this is the
In Day of
sequel to that.
Yes, an Day of the
You
Tentacle.
can
There's a little
play-
terminal where you can play the
You can actually
whole
play
So
the
good.
original inside the. It's like mental.
It's like
It's so
Inception. Incept game. Yeah. So
game
play
inside a
that.
game.
It's hilarious fun.
You know,
Do it.
in a lot of ways, games have moved backwards, hey?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like to make it
Because
rain.
writing, story,
Yeah.
games were born with brilliant
yeah, for
stories,
sure.
and
Yeah.
it's been downhill.
Sierra Games made all of its money out of
Space
decent
Quest,
writing.
man.
Yeah.
The only game that I played recently that has just featured this kick-ass story was To the Moon, which is this incredible indie game. You go and play it as well. Terrible graphics, but stunning,
Is it on the
stunning
level
story.
of Machinarium?
It's kind of there. It's
I'll check
very
it out, To the
moody and beautiful. Just absolutely
See,
beautiful.
the thing that fascinates me is why LucasArts and all of these guys don't just pick those old titles up, repackage them for iPad, and charge $10
They-
bucks for
oh.
them.
But this is a
No,
No,
beautiful.
no, they've only done it with Monkey Island, with the
And
Monkey
Sam
Island
and Max
frame.
now.
Oh, is Sam and Max
they've done
available
that.
now?
That's
Yeah.
cool.
See, but there's so much good stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, somebody should go and buy Sierra's portfolio and
Sure.
somehow
But this
push
is
that
the
onto
beautiful
iPad.
argument in favor of BitTorrent, you know, is that it's a beautiful archive of these things. You wouldn't be able to download Day of the Tentacle. We wouldn't be able to buy Day of the Tentacle anywhere,
That's a very good point.
you know. But we have this beautiful archive. And on that note, you know, should copyright for games expire after 5 years instead of 100
Totally.
years like
They should-
everything
no,
else?
no, no,
I mean,
they-
really.
No, it does.
They should
it does.
completely abandon
What's
West.
Does
the
it?
abandonware?
There's no actual
No, but
legal
in the
precedent
law,
for it, and
in the
that's
law,
the
it's just under normal copyright law, which is 100 years or 75
Yeah.
years.
We should
Right.
totally have a
Yeah.
chat after the show where I can speak to you about something and not endorse piracy.
Okay. We'll do that. Great.
All right, then. Ben.
The first one is I don't know if you picked it before, but Electronic Arts, even though they are in gaming terms the devil, have a little mini site, which comes under dailydeals.eamobile.com.
Okay.
And they basically list all the specials they've got going on different platforms on iPhone, iPad, and Android. And so some stuff you can pick up free, some of the stuff is free, but it's in-app supported, so you kind of have to keep your eyes open. But you do, I mean, I've picked up FIFA 12 and a couple of other things free there. If you just keep your eyes open, you go back every day. They change all the time, and you can pick up cool apps for free on
Nice.
the app stores, which is really nice. And I just want to relate a story. My machine was doing strange things, so I decided to reinstall it, and I discovered that firstly the Lion install disks that I had weren't bootable,
Yeah.
so I couldn't boot off and install a clean Lion partition.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? I said, okay, cool, I'll install Snow Leopard and boot off that, and install Lion off the back of that. So I put in the Snow Leopard disk, and it's a Snow Leopard retail disk,
okay.
and it kernel panics my MacBook Pro, less than a year
Oh
old,
dear.
shipped with Snow Leopard. Okay?
That'll never do.
Shipped with Snow Leopard. So I thought, oh fuck, what am I going to do now? Sorry, I used a bad word. I have to beep that out.
Ben.
So
Afrikaans swear words only.
yeah. So what I did, luckily I had used Carbon Copy Cloner
Yeah.
to back up my drive before I started on this little expedition.
Good.
So I was able to boot off my external USB drive, put and install Lion back onto my hard drive via that route.
Mm.
So the fact is, I mean, I know we've picked Carbon Copy Cloner before on the show, but there cannot enough nice things cannot be said about this piece of software.
Okay.
It is just the bee's knees, and it's free.
Cool.
It's completely free, and if you, what you back up is a completely bootable version of your hard drive.
That's nice.
And
I use CrashPlan because I can distribute to my parents' house, friends' house, that sort of stuff. But I can see the value in having a bootable.
And literally what it did is it saved my bacon. I mean,
Nice.
it really did. I mean, and now what I've got is I've got that sitting on my desk at work. So if there's any files that I need to bring back across, which I don't necessarily want to have on my machine all the time, I've got that old historic sort of snapshot in time of my hard drive.
Yeah.
And it actually asks you if you want to, when you boot up online and you plug the drive in, it picks up the network profiles of the thing. So my network admin says, do you want to use this, do you want to authorize this profile on this machine? And I'm going, no. But yeah, if you're doing any kind of serious heart surgery on a Mac,
Isn't Carbon Copy available for PC as well?
It may
I
be.
don't look. I don't think so. I was at the site like about 2-3 weeks ago because I did make a full Carbon Copy clone, and I don't think it is
I don't think it is
Carbon
either.
Copy Cloner.
CCC.
It's
For
just
Line.
line. Yeah,
Okay.
it's only for line. But yeah, if you're doing
it's
serious heart surgery on a Mac,
completely
you
free,
cannot do
dude.
it with that. Yeah, it's completely free. It's ad supported. You cannot do it. You shouldn't even start thinking about doing it without using the software
Okay,
first.
cool. So I'll do two quicks really. Quickly, the first one is iBooks Author. Now, there's been a lot of sort of talk about Apple and its terms of use with iBooks Author and the iBooks Store and ownership and whether or not Apple's evil and all the rest of it. Some of us have better things to do than worry about that. So, just joking. Serious issue. It's a serious issue. But for better or worse, iBooks Author is a really fantastic layout tool. Myself and Arthur Goldstuck and Toby Shapshak have done a compilation of our writing that we're self-publishing. So we're using Lulu for push print. We're doing it to Kindle, and then we're doing the iBook Store as well. And so I've been laying it out with iBooks Author just as an experiment, and it's a really, really amazing layout tool. It does things like table of contents automatically, and it looks really slick. You can test it on any connected iPad. Just a really amazing tool. So worth playing around with, and you're going to publish your book everywhere. You probably want it on the iBook Store as well. So we used InDesign to lay out books for anything else, and then I say it like we've done it so many times. The one book has been laid out on InDesign, but then I'm doing it in iBooks Author as well. Although, registering as a seller is a whole different deal because you need to have an iOS number. What do they call them? Anyway, EIN number. The other thing I'm going to pick is Peggle because it's available for mobile. It has been for some time.
Peggle.
Pickles rad.
Last time I played Peggle was when it hit Steam, like whenever, with the orange box. And I've been playing it on iOS now. I think it's available for Android too. And it rocks. But we're boring Brett and Sam, so we'll wrap it up.
No, not at all. Peggle rocks, dude.
Pickles awesome.
Peggle is
All right,
awesome.
it's time for the end of the show anyway. So let's stick. It feels like it's been a really long show tonight.
Oh, it was an
Because it
awesome
has
show,
been.
though.
Of course, it has been, Brett.
was
You
an
did most
awesome
of the
show.
talking. It had to rock.
What are we going to call it? Chat room? Anyone?
We'll think of a name later.
Making up the numbers.
All right,
There we go.
Making up the
Making up the
numbers.
numbers. Done
Done.
deal. Sold.
Ben. From now on, Brett will tell us what date it is, and you'll come up with the time. All right.
Sustainability, Ben. That's what we're going for. Long-term employment,
Long-term.
dude.
Thanks for being here,
Make
Ben
yourself
Kelly.
indispensable. Thank you very much,
Must
Simon.
return to his cave in the Magaliesberg Mountains,
Yes.
where he runs ungeek.co.za,
Of an
and his
I-
faithful
of a-
minions are awaiting his return
of my Neotel
with
connection.
some warmed-up beans.
And his Hessian sack, his ceremonial Hessian sack.
Don't joke about the beans.
Sam Beck Messenger from Quirk
It's been
at
fun as always.
Greenham_Sam.
Yep.
Thanks for being here. Brett Haggard, you're okay too. Hypertext Communications, BrettHaggard.com. At Bretsky on Twitter.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to go sleep now.
You look like you need a door.
This was episode number 196 of the ZA Tech Show, recorded on 30 January 2012.
Look at him. He's just
The
Monday.
ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za, and we'll be back next week with episode number 197. Thanks. Goodbye.